Comfort, Texas is a tranquil city. The Guadalupe River adds much to its charm. But in 1987, the unthinkable happened. The river flooded and a church bus carrying children was swept away. 10 children died.
It started early in the morning or late night before, and I was one of the patrolmen on duty. And we had already contacted all the camps because it was just part of our procedure and let them know when the river was coming up, because we had Guadalupe River starts in Kerr County. And so if it was on the west end at the headwaters of it, we had people up there that would always tell us when it started to come up. And you pretty well knew if you had a rise up on that end of 10 feet, by the time it gets down to the east end of the county, it was probably going to be over 20, 25 feet. So I had dispatchers call the camps and tell them to get the kids high ground. The river was coming up and would be coming up quite substantially. We had one of the camps out west first called, and we had a couple of their counselors that got stranded and were stuck on an island kind of in the river. And we couldn't get to them, and they were, needing to be rescued also. So at that time, we went ahead and called San Antonio and got, I think it was Fort Sam Houston, sent up one of their, I used to call them mass helicopters, is what, one of their helicopters that had the equipment with the hoist and all that on it. So they got here, and I got into that helicopter with them, and we flew up west, and we rescued one of the kids that had, one of the counselors. One had gotten himself out, the other one couldn't, and so we ended up rescuing that one. And right as we were finishing rescuing that counselor and got him to solid ground, that's when we got the call of the bus going off at Hermanson's Crossing. We saw several kids in trees, hanging on tree limbs and things like that. The bus was pretty well gone. It was underwater and, flipped, and we were getting reports at that time about how many kids were on the bus, and there was no way we were seeing that many kids. And, we immediately started lowering. We had, of course, pilot and co-pilot, and then we had a guy that was operating the hoist and another military guy that was on the hoist that would ride up and down. And then I would take the kids from him and pull them into the helicopter. And it happened so quick, at first I didn't even have a chance to put on a harness to strap me to the helicopter. And there were a couple times I almost got sucked out by kids that were grabbing hold because they're scared to death. And so we finally were able to rig a hoist that attached me to the bottom of the helicopter so that I would not, get pulled out of it while we were trying to do the rescues. We pulled out most of them that were found alive, or that were alive. A lot of the news media helicopters got there shortly after, a little bit later. DPS helicopter got there, and unfortunately we watched one kid drop because they were using ropes where we had the hoist and were trying to do the best. But and we were able to save a number of kids, which I felt great about. It was good, but unfortunately we lost a number of kids. And, the rest of the day and for a few days after that, we were same helicopter, and us were pulling kids out of fences and that had lost their lives tragically. And to this day, there's one that we never have recovered. Even to this day, I still dream about it at times, because being a grandfather of 10 grandkids and four grown kids myself, and back then my kids were young and starting, and things that you don't ever forget. With this being the, I guess, 30th anniversary or something like that of that, I still pray for the families that were affected, because that will never, it affected us as officers having to deal with it and pull it out, but those families that were affected by that tragedy, that lost kids, and like I said, there's one that we never recovered. I can't even imagine that, and what they went through, and I'm sure this anniversary will bring back a lot of those. So I just pray for their continued healing.